The alarm rang through the Galactic Union headquarters at exactly 0400 station time. Counselor Vren woke from his rest cycle with a feeling of dread in his three hearts. Something was very wrong. He rushed to the command center, his 6 legs moving faster than dignity would normally allow. Other council members were already there, their faces showing the same fear he felt. On the main viewing screen, static flickered where a live feed should have been. "What happened?" Vren asked, settling into his chair. "Sanctuary 7 went dark 30 minutes ago," replied Communications Officer Tillis, a Velen whose golden skin had turned pale with worry. "We received one transmission before we lost contact completely. Show me." The recording played. The image was shaky and filled with interference. A Velen farmer appeared on screen, his eyes wide with terror. Behind him, fires burned across what should have been peaceful farmland. "This is Colony Administrator Helven. We are under attack. Ships came from nowhere. They're killing everyone. Please, someone help us. They're breaking through the doors. The transmission ended in static and screams. The command center fell silent. No one spoke for a long moment. The Galactic Union had enjoyed peace for over 200 years. War was something they studied in history files, not something that happened to real people in real time. "Who did this?" Vren finally asked. A tactical officer brought up sensor data on the side screens. The attack patterns matched the Kral Marauders, a nomadic warrior species from beyond our borders. They raid colonies for resources and slaves. "Slaves?" Another council member gasped. "But that's illegal under Union law." "They're not Union members," the tactical officer explained. "They don't follow our laws." Vren felt his blood chill. The Kral had a reputation throughout the galaxy. They were big, violent, and cruel. Their warriors stood over 2 meters tall, with thick armored skin and 4 powerful arms. They lived for conquest and cared nothing for mercy. "How many colonists on Sanctuary 7? Vren asked. 47,000, Tillis whispered. "Mostly farmers and their families. They have no weapons, no defenses. Contact our defense fleet immediately." The tactical officer's face fell. "Sir, our nearest patrol ships are 3 days away." The Kral would destroy them in minutes. Vren slumped in his chair. The Union had no military because they had never needed one. All member species came from gentle worlds where evolution had favored cooperation over conflict. They had patrol ships for emergencies and mining accidents, but nothing that could fight real warriors. "We have to do something," Tillis pleaded. "Those are my people dying down there." The council argued for an hour. They had no good options. Their ships were too slow and too weak. Diplomatic channels to the Kral would be useless. The raiders didn't negotiate. They took what they wanted and left destruction behind. Finally, an old council member named Plix spoke up. His voice was quiet, almost reluctant. "There is one option we haven't discussed." Everyone turned to look at him. "The humans," Plix said. The room erupted in protests. Several council members stood from their seats, their voices rising in alarm. "Absolutely not. Have you lost your mind? They're more dangerous than the Kral." Vren raised his hand for silence. "Explain, Plix." The old counselor brought up a file on the main screen. The header read, "Contact Report, Terra. Application for Union Membership. Denied. Case sealed. 20 years ago, we received a transmission from a species that called themselves humans. They had just achieved faster-than-light travel and wanted to join the Union. We sent a first contact team to evaluate their world." Plix opened the file. Images of a blue and green planet appeared on screen. It looked beautiful, peaceful. Then, the data started scrolling past. "Their planet is classified as a Class 1-2 death world. Gravity 1.8 times. Union standard. Extreme climate variations. Super predators in every ecosystem." The evaluation team reported that humans evolved by fighting for survival every single day. They have forward-facing eyes like hunters. They show their teeth when expressing emotion. They can run for hours without stopping. They heal from wounds that would kill most of us. More images appeared. Humans, in various settings. They looked similar to several Union species in basic shape, but something about them felt wrong. Their eyes were intense. Their movements were controlled but suggested coiled strength. The most disturbing part, Plix continued, is their history. They fought wars against each other for thousands of years. Wars that killed millions. They invented weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They've survived 6 mass extinction events. The evaluation team recommended we deny their membership application and avoid contact. Why? Asked Vren. Because the team was afraid. They said humans were apex predators, wearing the mask of civilization. They said if humans ever unified and turned their attention outward, nothing in the galaxy could stop them. Tillis stepped forward, desperation in his voice. My people are dying right now. If the humans are as dangerous as that report says, maybe they're dangerous enough to stop the crawl. Or maybe they'll make everything worse, another counselor argued. We could be inviting a bigger monster to fight a smaller one. Vren looked at the data again. Humanity's application had been denied, but the humans had accepted the decision peacefully. They hadn't threatened or attacked. They had simply returned to their space and continued building their civilization alone. Do we even know if they'll help? Vren asked. Plix nodded. The contact team noted something unusual in human psychology. They have a strong protective instinct toward those they consider innocent. They also have a concept they call honor that sometimes compels them to help others even at great cost to themselves. Sometimes, Vren repeated. Not always. No, Plix admitted. Not always. The council voted. It was close, but desperation won. They would send a distress call to Earth and pray that the humans would respond with help, not harm. Vren personally recorded the message. He explained the situation simply and directly. He admitted they had rejected humanity's application years ago. He asked for help anyway, offering whatever payment Earth would demand. As the message transmitted across space toward the Sol system, Vren whispered a prayer to his ancestors. He had just called for help from a species his own people feared. He could only hope he hadn't made a terrible mistake. The response came 6 hours later. It was audio only, transmitted on emergency channels. A human voice spoke in perfect Union Standard language, though the accent was strange and the tone was cold. This is Admiral Day of the Terran Fleet Command. We received your distress call. The 5th Expeditionary Fleet is launching immediately. We will arrive at Sanctuary, 7 inches 31 hours. Prepare medical facilities for wounded civilians. Day out. The transmission ended as quickly as it had begun. Tillis looked at Vren with hope in his eyes. They're coming. They're actually coming. Vren nodded slowly, but his hearts were heavy with worry. The humans were coming with something called an expeditionary fleet. That meant the galaxy was about to see what Deathworld predators could do when they decided to fight. He just hoped they had made the right choice. The human fleet arrived exactly when they said they would. 31 hours after Admiral Day's transmission, 53 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valan system. Counselor Vren watched the sensor displays with growing fear. Each human ship was massive, covered in armor, plating, and bristling with weapons. They moved in perfect formation, their engines burning with power that made Union patrol ships look like children's toys. Those are warships, breathed the tactical officer. Real warships. I've only seen designs like that in historical databases from the War Ages. Open a channel, Vren ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. The main screen flickered to life. A human appeared, and Vren had to fight the instinct to flee. The human male had dark hair cut very short and wore a uniform of deep blue. His eyes were positioned in the front of his face like a hunter's eyes, designed to track prey. When he spoke, Vren could see the white teeth that marked humans as predators. I am Admiral Day of the Terran vessel Indomitable. We are here to assist Sanctuary 7. What is the current situation? Wei. Vren forced himself to speak calmly. Admiral, thank you for coming. The Crawl Raiders attacked 40 hours ago. We've had no contact with the surface since. Long-range scans show at least 37 crawl ships in orbit and multiple landing parties on the ground. Another human appeared on screen beside the Admiral. This one was a female with sharp features and dark eyes that seemed to see everything. I am Captain Yuna. Second in command. How many crawl warriors are we looking at? Enwo. Our estimates suggest at least 5,000 on the ground, replied the tactical officer. Maybe more. To Vren's shock, Captain Yuna smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It showed teeth and made Vren's blood run cold. Only 5,000? She said. Vren couldn't believe what he was hearing. Captain, you don't understand. The Crawl are the most feared warriors in this region of space. Each one is over 2 meters tall with armored skin and 4 arms. They've been raiding colonies for generations. They're nearly impossible to kill. Admiral Day leaned forward slightly. Captain Yuna has fought in 17 combat operations across 3 star systems. She's killed enemy combatants in zero gravity, underwater, and in atmospheric combat. The Crawl. Don't scare us. A younger human joined the conference call. He wore a different uniform with tactical gear strapped to his chest. I'm Lieutenant Hyun, Marine Commander. Sir, we're ready to deploy whenever you give the order. Stand by, Lieutenant, Admiral Day replied. Then he looked directly at Vren. Counselor, I need you to understand something before we proceed. We're going to save those colonists, but we're going to do it our way. That means using human military doctrine. It might be violent. It will definitely be effective. If you can't handle that, look away. Vren wanted to object, but Tillis stepped forward. Admiral, those are my people down there. Do whatever you need to do. Just please save them. Day nodded once. Understood. All ships. This is Admiral Day. We are now in active combat operations. Rules of engagement are as follows. Any Crawl vessel that does not immediately retreat will be destroyed. Any Crawl forces on the ground will be neutralized. Civilian casualties are to be avoided at all costs. All units acknowledge. Across the fleet, 53 ships responded in unison. Acknowledged. The Admiral turned back to the screen. Counselor, I strongly suggest you record this engagement. Your union needs to understand what real combat looks like. Before Vren could respond, the human fleet moved. They didn't slowly advance or send warning shots. They accelerated directly toward the Crawl ships with frightening speed. A Crawl transmission came through on open channels. The Crawl commander appeared on screen. His 4 arms crossed over his massive chest. His skin was thick and scarred, his teeth filed to points. Unknown ships, this is Commander Vorash of the Crawl fleet. You are interfering with our raid. Leave now, or we will add your bones to our collection. Admiral Day's response was cold and simple. You have 60 seconds to leave this system. After that, you're all dead. Sev. Vorash laughed. A horrible sound that echoed through the command center. Foolish creatures! We are Crawl! We have conquered 100 worlds! We will crush your ships and take your people as slaves! 50 seconds, Day said calmly. The Crawl commander roared in rage and cut the transmission. On the tactical display, all 37 Crawl ships turned to face the human fleet. They began moving into attack formation. Admiral, they're preparing to fire, warned the tactical officer. 40 seconds, Day continued, as if he hadn't heard. Vren watched in horror as the Crawl ships powered up their weapons. The entire Crawl fleet was moving to engage. Even with superior numbers on the human side, this would be a bloodbath. 20 seconds. The Crawl ships opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human fleet. and the humans just kept coming. Their ships moved like living things, dodging and weaving through the incoming fire with impossible precision. The few shots that connected splashed harmlessly against human shield systems that were far more advanced than anything the Union had. 5 seconds. "Admiral, they're still not retreating," Vren shouted. "Time's up," Admiral Day said quietly. "All ships, weapons free. Eliminate all hostile contacts." What happened next would haunt Vren for the rest of his life. The human fleet opened fire, and the Krall ships started dying. Human weapons tore through Krall armor like it was paper. Missiles struck with devastating accuracy. Energy beams cut Krall destroyers in half. In the first 30 seconds of combat, 8 Krall ships were destroyed. But that wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part was how the humans fought. They didn't just shoot at the Krall ships. They executed complex attack patterns that surrounded enemy vessels and hit them from multiple angles simultaneously. They used something Captain Yuna called wolf pack tactics, where small groups of human ships work together to isolate and destroy individual Krall vessels. "How are they doing this?" the tactical officer whispered. "They're pulling maneuvers at 9 times standard gravity. That should kill the crews. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world," Plix explained quietly. "Their bodies can handle forces that would crush us. And look at their weapons placement. Every shot is calculated for maximum damage. They're not trying to disable those ships. They're trying to destroy them completely." Commander Vorash's ship tried to rally the Krall fleet, but it was useless. The Krall had never faced an enemy like this. They were used to fighting targets that were weaker than them, slower than them, easier to kill. The humans were none of those things. A wing of human fighter craft screamed past the command center's external cameras. They were small ships, each carrying only 1 or 2 pilots. A squadron leader's voice came through on an open channel. "This is Commander Tay, Fighter Wing Alpha. We have target lock on the Krall command ship. Requesting permission to engage." "Permission granted," Admiral Day replied. "Make it count." The human fighters dove toward Vorash's ship like birds of prey. They moved so fast that Vren could barely track them on sensors. The Krall ship fired desperately, but the human pilots seemed to predict every shot. They wove between the defensive fire and launched their own weapons at point-blank range. Vorash's ship shuddered under the impacts. Its armor cracked, its shields failed. And then, the human fighters were gone, accelerating away before the Krall could even react. The command ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. "Command ship destroyed," reported Captain Yuna. "Remaining Krall vessels are breaking formation. Some are attempting to retreat." "Let them run," Admiral Day ordered. "Focus fire on any ships still in combat posture." The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it was over, 31 Krall ships were destroyed. 6 had managed to jump away to faster-than-light speeds. Not a single human ship had been lost. Admiral Day turned back to the conference screen. "Counselor, the orbital space is secure. Now we go down to the surface. Lieutenant Hyun, begin your assault." "Yes, sir," the Marine commander replied. "All dropships, launch immediately." Through the command center windows, Vren watched as dozens of smaller craft detached from the human warships and streaked toward Sanctuary 7. He looked at Tillis, who was crying tears of relief and fear. The humans had won the space battle. But now came the harder part. 5,000 Krall warriors on the ground, holding 47,000 civilians hostage. Vren just hoped the colonists would survive their rescue. The human dropships hit the atmosphere of Sanctuary 7 like falling meteors. Inside one of them, Marine Captain Jin checked his weapon one last time and looked at his squad. 30 soldiers in powered armor, each one trained and ready for combat. "Listen up," Jin said over the squad channel. "Intel shows the Krall have rounded up civilians in the main colony center. They're using them as shields. We go in fast, we separate the hostages from the hostiles, and we eliminate any threat. Rules of engagement are clear. Any Krall with a weapon is a target. Any crawl threatening civilians is a priority target. Questions? Crawl. No, sir, the squad replied in unison. The dropship shook as it descended through thick clouds. Below them, the colony was burning. Smoke rose from destroyed buildings. The crawl had spent 2 days looting and killing, and they weren't done yet. On the ground, Crawl Commander Thrak paced in front of the captured colonists. He had heard that his fleet was destroyed. He didn't believe it at first. The Crawl fleet was unstoppable, but the radio silence from orbit told him something had gone very wrong. New plan, he growled to his warriors. These soft creatures are our way off this planet. When their rescue ships arrive, we negotiate our escape, using their lives as payment. The Velan colonists huddled together in fear. They had watched the Crawl kill their neighbors, burn their homes, and laugh while doing it. Now, they were prisoners, waiting for either rescue or death. Then the sky opened up. Human dropships descended in a coordinated assault pattern. They didn't land near the colony. They landed around it, forming a circle that blocked all escape routes. Ramps dropped, and soldiers in armor poured out, moving with frightening speed. Thrak grabbed the nearest colonist, a young Velan female, and pulled her in front of him. He held a blade to her throat. "Tell your rescuers to back away, or she dies." "All of them die." Captain Jin's voice came through on all frequencies, speaking perfect Velan. "Civilians, drop to the ground when I give the signal. Stay flat and don't move. We're getting you out of here," Thrak roared in anger. "I said back away. We have thousands of hostages. You cannot—" "Now!" Jin shouted. Every Velan colonist dropped flat to the ground. It was instinct, terror, and desperate hope all combined. The Crawl stood exposed, confused by the sudden movement. The humans opened fire, from 3 directions simultaneously. Human soldiers engaged with precision that seemed impossible. They didn't spray bullets randomly. Each shot was aimed and calculated. Crawl warriors fell before they could even raise their weapons. The ones who tried to grab fallen colonists were shot before their hands could reach their victims. Thrak still held his hostage. He pulled her up as a shield, screaming threats in his own language. A human soldier appeared from behind a ruined building. Rifle raised. The designation on his armor read, Sergeant Nari. "Let her go," Nari said calmly. "Last chance. You'll kill her if you shoot." Thrak snarled. "I don't miss," Nari replied. The shot took Thrak in the head, threading between the hostage's arm and shoulder, with less than 5 centimeters of clearance. The Crawl commander dropped dead instantly. The Velan female collapsed, unhurt, but in shock. All around the colony, similar scenes played out. The Crawl tried to fight back, but they were outmatched in every way. Their thick, armored skin was tough, but human weapons were tougher. Their 4 arms gave them strength, but human tactical training gave them no chance to use it. Within 20 minutes, the central colony was secure. But the battle wasn't over. Hundreds of Crawl had scattered into the surrounding wilderness when the humans landed. They thought they could hide in the forests and swamps, maybe ambush the humans later. They didn't understand who they were dealing with. Lieutenant Hana studied the tracking data on her helmet display. Multiple heat signatures in the northern forest sector. "Looks like they're trying to reach the mountains." Captain Jin nodded. "Take your team and hunt them down. Remember, we can't let them regroup." Hana's team moved into the forest as daylight faded. They switched to night vision and thermal imaging, technology the Crawl didn't have. In the darkness, the fleeing Crawl warriors became visible as bright spots of heat against the cool forest background. "Contact, 200 meters northeast," one soldier reported. "Count 6 hostiles moving through the trees. Close in quietly," Hana ordered. "Take them before they know we're here." The human soldiers moved through the forest like ghosts. They had trained for this kind of operation on Earth, where they hunted each other in exercises designed to push them to their limits. Hunting the Crawl in an alien forest was just another day of work. The Crawl never heard them coming. 6 shots in rapid succession, and 6 Crawl dropped without ever seeing their killers. This scene repeated throughout the night. The Crawl tried to hide in caves. The humans had sensors that detected them through solid rock. The Crawl tried to cross rivers to lose their pursuers. The humans had equipment that let them breathe underwater, and they followed anyway. The Crawl tried to run faster. The humans were persistence hunters who could run for hours without stopping. By dawn, it was over. Captain Jin stood in the colony center as medical teams worked on wounded colonists. Around him, captured Crawl warriors knelt under guard. Those who had surrendered were secured and treated for injuries. Those who had fought to the end were dead. Status report, Admiral Day requested from orbit. Surface is secure, sir, Jin replied. We've eliminated or captured all hostile forces. Civilian casualties are being assessed now. Preliminary counts show about 3,000 colonists killed by the Crawl before we arrived. The remaining 44,000 are safe. There was silence on the channel for a moment. Casualties? Among your forces? No. 14 wounded, none critically. 0 killed. Understood. Good work, Captain. Begin processing prisoners for transport. Jin looked at the Crawl prisoners. They were huge and dangerous looking, but they sat quietly now. They had learned the hard way that being big and strong wasn't enough against an enemy who was smarter, faster, and better trained. Tillis arrived on the surface a few hours later. He walked through the colony with tears streaming down his face. So many dead, so much destroyed, but his people were alive. The humans had saved them. He found Captain Jin overseeing the reconstruction efforts. Human engineers were already working with colonist volunteers to repair critical infrastructure. Captain, Tillis said, his voice shaking. How do I thank you? What payment can we possibly offer? For what you've done. Jin looked uncomfortable. We didn't do this for payment. We did it because it was right. Those people needed help. We gave it, but your people risked their lives. That's what soldiers do, Jin interrupted gently. We train to fight so that people like your colonists don't have to. It's our purpose. Tillis looked at the human captain with new understanding. The Union Council was afraid of your species. They said you were dangerous predators. We are dangerous, Jin admitted. Every human is trained from childhood to fight and survive. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to fight back and we got very good at it. But you use that danger to protect others. Jin smiled slightly. Someone once said that the most dangerous human is one who has decided to protect something. We decided to protect your people. The Crawl learned what that means. Across the colony, Velen families reunited. Children who thought they would die were held by crying parents. Elderly colonists who had accepted their fate were celebrating their rescue. They looked at the human soldiers with a mixture of gratitude and lingering fear. The humans didn't seem to mind. They worked tirelessly, helping with medical care, fixing damaged buildings, providing food and water from their ships. They were kind and patient with the colonists, especially the children. One young Velan girl approached Sergeant Nari, who was taking a break near a supply depot. She held out a small flower she had found growing in the ruins. Thank you for saving us, she said quietly. Nari knelt down to her level and accepted the flower gently. You're welcome. Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you? The girl shook her head. The scary ones tried to. But you stopped them. You killed them to save us. Nari was quiet for a moment. Yes, I'm sorry you had to see that. My teacher says killing is always wrong. Your teacher is right for most times, Nari said carefully. But sometimes, bad people hurt innocent people. When that happens, someone has to stop them. That's what soldiers do. We do the hard things, so you can be safe. The girl thought about this and then hugged Nari quickly, before running back to her parents. Back in orbit, Admiral Day watched the recovery efforts on his displays. Captain Yuna stood beside him. "The Union Council is requesting a full briefing," she said. "They want to know how we won so easily." Day nodded slowly. "It wasn't easy, Captain. We just made it look easy, because we've been training for war since before we learned to write. Schedule the briefing. They need to understand what we are and what we can do." "Do you think they'll still be afraid of us?" "Probably," Day admitted. "But maybe now they'll understand that there's a difference between being dangerous and being evil. We're the first, but we try very hard not to be the second." On Sanctuary 7, the sun was setting on a day that had changed everything. The colonists were saved. The Kraul were defeated, and the galaxy had just learned that the humans were not just survivors, they were protectors. Dangerous, powerful, and unstoppable protectors. The Union Council chamber was completely silent as Admiral Day finished his presentation. The holographic display showed the complete battle record, from the first engagement with the Kraul fleet to the final capture of enemy forces on the ground. Every council member had watched humans fight with an efficiency that terrified them. Counselor Vren was the first to speak. "Admiral, your forces performed remarkably. But I must ask, was it necessary to kill so many? Could you not have simply disabled their ships and captured them?" Day's expression didn't change. "Counselor, when the Kraul opened fire on my fleet, they made their choice. In combat, hesitation kills. We responded with overwhelming force to end the threat as quickly as possible. That speed saved civilian lives." Another counselor stood, her voice shaking. "But you destroyed 31 ships. Thousands of Kraul died. Doesn't that bother you?" Captain Yuna stepped forward. "Every one of those ships had time to retreat. Admiral Day gave them 60 seconds to leave peacefully. They chose to fight instead. We honored their choice. Since of Thames Tenor, on Himder, Admiral Day they're wary. On Himder 5. "You make it sound so simple," the counselor protested. "Life and death reduced to cold calculation." "War is simple," Yuna replied. "It's not easy, but it's simple. You identify threats. You eliminate them. You protect those who cannot protect themselves. Humans have been doing this for tens of thousands of years." Plix raised his hand for attention. "Admiral, the Council has reviewed the records from the Kraul prisoners. They claim your forces committed war crimes. Specifically, they say you hunted down and killed warriors who were retreating." "They weren't retreating," Captain Jin said from his position near the display. "They were repositioning. They still had weapons. They still posed a threat to civilians. We tracked them down and neutralized that threat. Some say you showed no mercy." Jin's face hardened. "We showed mercy to the colonists. We showed mercy to every Kraul who surrendered. But warriors who keep fighting don't get to complain when they lose. The Kraul spent 2 days killing innocent people. They don't get to play victim now." Tillis stood up, his voice strong despite his grief. "I lost 3,000 of my people to the Kraul. I watched the recordings of what they did before the humans arrived. They killed children. They tortured prisoners for entertainment. They burned families alive in their homes. The humans stopped them. If that's war crimes, then I am grateful for war crimes." The council erupted in argument. Half supported Tillis and the humans. The other half worried about accepting such a violent species into their peaceful civilization. The debate raged for hours. Finally, a different issue came up. Counselor Vren pulled up new files on the main display. "There's another matter. The captured Kraul leaders. The Union requests they be transferred to our custody for trial under Union law." Admiral Day shook his head. "Request denied. They attacked a colony under our protection. They will be tried under human military law." "But Union law has no death penalty," Vren protested. "We believe in rehabilitation, and human law does have a death penalty for certain crimes," Day interrupted. "Mass murder is one of those crimes. The Kraul leadership will be tried fairly. They will have legal representation. But if found guilty, they will face human justice. The council chamber fell silent. This was the real issue, the real fear. Humans didn't just fight efficiently. They believed in consequences that the Union had abandoned centuries ago. Dr. Mina, a human xenobiologist, requested permission to speak. Admiral Day nodded, and she stepped forward. Counselors, I think you need to understand something about human psychology. We evolved on a world that killed 99% of every species that ever lived there. We survived because we were smart enough to avoid death and strong enough to fight it when we couldn't avoid it. That shaped how we think about justice. She brought up images of Earth's history on the display. We learned early that mercy to the cruel means cruelty to the innocent. When someone proves they will hurt others, we remove that threat permanently. It's not about revenge, it's about preventing future harm. But everyone can change, a counselor argued. Everyone deserves a second chance. Do they? Mina asked quietly. The Kraul have raided 23 colonies over the past decade. Over 50,000 sentients are dead because of them. How many second chances did their victims get? The council had no answer to that. 3 days later, the trial began. It was held aboard the Indomitable, broadcast live to the entire Union. Sergeant Nari served as military prosecutor. The captured Kraul leaders were given human defense attorneys who actually worked hard to defend them fairly. The evidence was overwhelming. Recordings from the Kraul's own ships showed them planning raids, dividing loot, and laughing about their victims. Survivor testimony described atrocities in painful detail. Even the defense attorneys looked sick by the end of the evidence presentation. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. When the judge announced that the sentence would be death, several Union counselors filed formal protests. They begged Admiral Day to show mercy, to spare the Kraul leaders. Day met with Counselor Vren privately to explain his decision. Counselor, I understand your civilization sees death penalties as barbaric. But let me ask you something. If we spare these Kraul, what message does that send to others like them? That they can raid and kill, and if caught, they'll just be imprisoned, comfortably? We believe people can be reformed, Vren said quietly. Some people can. Day agreed. But some people are too dangerous. The Kraul leadership orchestrated the deaths of thousands. They showed no mercy to their victims. They would do it again if given the chance. Human justice says that when you prove you're a threat to innocent life, you lose your own right to life. That seems harsh. Harsh? Day's voice rose slightly. You know what's harsh? Telling the families of 3,000 dead Velen colonists that their killers get to live comfortable lives in prison. You know what's harsh? Knowing that someday those Kraul might escape or be released and kill again. Human justice might be harsh, but it's final. It protects future victims. Vren had no response. He returned to the council and reported the conversation. The debate continued, but the humans would not be moved. The sentences were carried out humanely and quickly. The Union watched and judged, but they could not deny one thing. No Kraul raiders had been seen since the battle at Sanctuary 7. Word had spread through the criminal networks of the galaxy. The humans were not to be challenged, but the debate about human membership continued. Some counselors argued that humanity's military strength was exactly what the Union needed. Others worried that accepting humans meant accepting their violent nature. Then Admiral Day made a proposal to the full council. We understand your concerns, he said. Humans are different from Union species. We're more aggressive, more violent, more willing to use force. But we're also loyal, protective, and honorable. We don't want to conquer you. We want to protect you. He brought up a document on the display. Earth proposes a defense pact. We provide military protection for Union space. In exchange, we gain full membership and trade rights. But there's a condition. You don't interfere with how we handle military threats. When violence is necessary, you let us be violent. When justice is required, you let us deliver it. You want a free hand to do whatever you deem necessary? Vren asked carefully. No, Day corrected. We want the authority to protect Union citizens using human methods. We will answer to you for our actions. We will explain our decisions, but we won't apologize for being what we are. Survivors who know how to fight. The council was divided. The debate seemed like it would go on forever. But then, the sensors detected something that changed everything. Admiral, Captain Yuna said urgently. Long-range scans are picking up a massive fleet entering Union space from the galactic north. Identifying signatures now. The tactical display updated. Hundreds of ships, all moving in formation toward Union territory. The Dominion, Plix whispered in horror. They're finally coming. Counselor Vren looked at Admiral Day. What is the Dominion? A conquering empire from beyond Union borders, Plix explained. 3 allied species who view other civilizations as territory to be claimed. They've been expanding for decades. We hoped they would never notice us. How many ships? Day asked calmly. Over 300, the tactical officer reported. They've already destroyed 2 border worlds. They're not raiding. They're invading. The council chamber erupted in panic. The Union had no way to fight an invasion fleet. They had just seen what the Crawl could do with 37 ships. 300 would be unstoppable. Admiral Day stood and addressed the council. Counselors, you have a choice to make right now. Accept our proposal and let Earth defend the Union, or face the Dominion alone. Decide quickly, because that fleet will be here in days, not weeks. Vren looked at his fellow counselors. He saw fear in their faces. Fear, but also hope. The humans had saved Sanctuary 7. Could they save the entire Union? The vote was called immediately. When the results came in, humanity's membership was approved. Admiral Day was given full authority to coordinate Union defense. He immediately sent a message back to Earth. Send everything we've got. The real war starts now. Fleet Admiral Sung arrived at Union Central with the largest human military force ever assembled in one place. 127 warships from 3 different fleets, carrying over 50,000 crew members and Marines. The Union had never seen so much military power concentrated in one location. Counselor Vren watched the human fleet organize itself in orbit and felt both relief and terror. Relief, because they might actually survive the coming invasion. Terror, because he had just invited an army of apex predators into his home. Admiral Sung was older than Admiral Day, with gray hair and a face marked by decades of command. He projected an image of calm authority that somehow made him even more intimidating. When he spoke at the council briefing, every word carried weight. The Dominion fleet consists of 314 ships according to our scouts. They've already destroyed 2 of your border worlds completely. Their strategy is simple. Overwhelming force, followed by occupation. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners who can fight back. They conquer. What can we do? Vren asked, trying to keep the desperation from his voice. We do what humans have always done, Sung replied. We make victory so expensive that our enemy decides peace is cheaper. He brought up tactical displays, showing the Dominion's projected path. They're moving slowly because they think we're helpless. They're wrong. We're going to hit them before they reach Union Central, in a region of space called the Abyss. It's filled with asteroid fields and sensor interference. Perfect for an ambush. You want to ambush 300 ships with 127? Another counselor asked in disbelief. No, Sung said with a slight smile. I want to ambush 300 ships with surprise, superior tactics, and human determination. The numbers are just details. Captain Yuna stepped forward. We've also sent a deep strike team into Dominion territory. Commander Wu is leading a stealth mission to destroy their shipyard and command center. If we can cut off their reinforcements and leadership simultaneously, we can break their invasion before it really begins. That's suicide, Plix protested. Dominion space is heavily defended. Probably, Yuna agreed. But Commander Wu volunteered anyway. That's what humans do. Far behind enemy lines, Commander Wu's stealth ship drifted silently through Dominion space. His crew of 12 specialists had trained for high-risk operations like this. They were invisible to Dominion sensors, using technology that was decades ahead of anything the Union or Dominion possessed. Target acquired, the pilot reported. Dominion shipyard. Exactly where intelligence said it would be. Wu studied the massive orbital structure. Dozens of ships under construction. Thousands of workers. And enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. And they had no idea. Humans were less than 10 kilometers away. Deploy weapons, Wu ordered quietly. Maximum yield. This only works if we destroy everything in one shot. The stealth ship released a pattern of high-yield missiles, each one locked onto a critical structural point. Then, it began moving away, at maximum, silent speed. The missiles struck simultaneously. The shipyard didn't just explode. It tore itself apart in a chain reaction that destroyed every ship under construction and killed everyone aboard. The blast was visible from 3 star systems away. Before the Dominion could respond, Wu's ship jumped to faster than light speed and escaped. Mission accomplished. Back at the abyss, Admiral Sung positioned his fleet carefully. Human ships hid among asteroids, their weapons powered down to minimum detectable levels. The Dominion fleet approached, confident and unwary. They're not even running active sensors, Captain Yuna observed. They think we're too weak to threaten them. Let them think that, Sung replied. Hold positions. Wait for my signal. The Dominion fleet entered the asteroid field in a loose formation. They were so confident that they didn't bother with defensive positioning. It was a mistake they would pay for. All ships, Sung said calmly. Execute Operation Deathworld. The human fleet activated simultaneously. Weapons powered up instantly. Ships that had been invisible on sensors suddenly blazed with targeting systems. And then they opened fire from every direction at once. The Dominion fleet was caught completely by surprise. The first volley destroyed 23 ships before they could even raise shields. The second volley took out another 17. By the time the Dominion commanders realized they were in a fight, they had already lost 40 ships. But the Dominion recovered quickly. They were conquerors for a reason. Their commanders organized a counterattack, bringing their superior numbers to bear. They're adapting, Yuna warned. Reforming into defensive positions. Then we adapt faster, Sung replied. All ships, execute Terran Gambit. What happened next was something only humans would attempt. It was called a faster-than-light micro-jump, a maneuver so dangerous that it had a 20% chance of catastrophic failure. Ships would jump directly into an enemy formation, fire at point-blank range, then jump back out before the enemy could respond. The calculations required split-second timing and absolute precision. A mistake of even 1 microsecond meant collision and death. But humans had practiced this maneuver for years, refining it until the failure rate dropped to less than 2%. 20 human ships vanished from their positions and reappeared in the middle of the Dominion formation. They fired everything they had in 3 seconds of sustained barrage, then jumped out. 15 Dominion capital ships ceased to exist. The Dominion fleet panicked. Ships began firing at each other in the confusion. Their tight formation, meant for mutual protection, became a death trap, as explosions cascaded from ship to ship. Hit them again, Sung ordered. Don't give them time to recover. The human fleet pressed the attack with ruthless efficiency. Every maneuver was calculated. Every shot was aimed. They fought like a pack of wolves taking down prey much larger than themselves, working together with perfect coordination. But the Dominion had numbers on their side. For every ship they lost, they still had 10 more. They began targeting individual human ships, trying to isolate and destroy them. The human destroyer, Courage, was hit by concentrated fire from 6 Dominion cruisers. Its shields failed, and its hull began breaking apart. "This is Courage," the captain transmitted. "Hull integrity failing. We're going down." "Negative," Admiral Sung responded. "Ramming speed. Take as many as you can with you." "Yes, sir," the captain replied without hesitation. "It's been an honor." The Courage accelerated directly toward the largest Dominion battleship, its engines screaming at emergency power. The Dominion ship tried to evade, but the human destroyer was faster. They collided at tremendous speed. The explosion destroyed the Dominion battleship and 2 nearby cruisers. All across the battlefield, human crews fought with a determination that shocked the Dominion. When ships were damaged, they didn't retreat. They pressed forward. When weapons ran low, they used their ships as weapons. When death was certain, they made sure to take enemies with them. This wasn't just warfare. This was a level of commitment that the Dominion had never encountered. These humans didn't just fight to win. They fought because surrender wasn't in their nature. Captain Yuna's ship took heavy damage from a Dominion assault group. Half her crew was dead or wounded. Life support was failing. Her tactical officer looked at her with fear in his eyes. "Captain, we need to retreat." "No," Yuna said firmly. "We hold this position. If we fall back, they'll break through our line and reach Union Central. We'll be here, maybe," Yuna admitted. "But we'll die, doing our duty. That's what matters." Her crew looked at her, saw her certainty, and found their own courage. They stayed. They fought. They held the line. And then reinforcements arrived. "This is Admiral Day aboard the Indomitable," came the transmission. "Fifth Fleet just jumped into the system. Where do you need us?" "Everywhere," Sung replied with something that might have been a laugh. "Hit their left flank. We've got them breaking." Day's fleet crashed into the Dominion formation like a hammer. Fresh ships, full ammunition, and crews eager for battle. The Dominion line, already weakened by hours of combat, finally collapsed. "They're retreating," a tactical officer shouted. "Pursue," Sung ordered. "Don't let them regroup. Don't let them regroup." The human fleet chased the fleeing Dominion ships for 6 hours, destroying stragglers and capturing damaged vessels. When it was over, the Dominion had lost 178 ships. The human fleet had lost 23. Admiral Sung sent a message to the Dominion leadership on all frequencies. "The Union is under Earth's protection. Any further attacks will be met with total war. You've seen what we can do. Imagine what we'll do to your homeworlds if you force us. Leave now and never return." The Dominion retreated beyond their own borders and never came back. They had conquered dozens of civilizations, but they knew when they were beaten. The humans weren't just strong, they were absolutely committed to their defense of the Union, willing to die in numbers that made no sense by Dominion logic. 3 weeks later, Admiral Sung stood before the Union Council to deliver his final report. Counselor Vren looked at the human admiral with new understanding. "You saved us," Vren said simply. "We would have been conquered without you." "Maybe," Sung replied. "But you also saved us." "How did we save you?" "You gave us purpose," the admiral explained. "Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other because we had no common enemy. We've always been at our best when we're protecting something. You gave us something to protect. You gave us a reason to use our strength for good instead of for destruction." A formal ceremony was held. Earth was granted full membership in the Galactic Union. Admiral Day was appointed Supreme Defense Commander, with authority over all Union military operations. Human ships would patrol Union space. Human soldiers would train Union forces. Human technology would be shared to improve everyone's safety. But there were rules too. Humans would operate under Union oversight. Their actions would be reviewed. They would have to explain their decisions and justify their methods. It wasn't perfect, but it was a balance both sides could accept. On Sanctuary 7, now fully rebuilt, a monument was erected in the central square. It showed a human soldier standing guard, weapon ready, eyes watching for threats. The inscription read in both Valen and English, "When we called for help, they answered. When we were helpless, they fought. When we faced destruction, they stood between us and death. They are the Deathworlders, the predators who chose to protect instead of prey." In orbit above Union Central, human patrol ships maintained their watch. In the command center, Captain Yuna reviewed defense protocols, while Lieutenant Hyun trained Union officers in tactical operations. Sergeant Nari taught combat medicine to Union medics who had never seen war before. The galaxy had changed. The Union had learned that peace required strength. The humans had learned that strength meant responsibility. Together, they built something new. A civilization that could be both gentle and fierce, peaceful and ready for war. And across the stars, other civilizations heard about the human fleet. They heard about the species from the Death World that had made the Union untouchable. Some feared them. Some respected them. Some planned to test them. But everyone knew one thing for certain. The humans had arrived on the galactic stage, and they would not be ignored. Admiral Sung stood at the window of his flagship, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there were more threats, more enemies, more battles to fight. But humans had been fighting since they first stood upright on the African plains. They knew how to survive. They knew how to protect. And they would keep doing both for as long as the galaxy needed them.